The Kelvarian research ship, Stellar Echo, floated dead in space like a broken toy. Its silver hull had 3 massive cracks running down the side, and strange green lights flickered on and off inside the ship. Commander Thyra pressed her blue-scaled hand against the cold metal wall and felt the vibrations getting weaker. Her ship was dying, and so was everyone on it. 10 of the galaxy's best scientists sat slumped in their chairs, their skin turning pale gray. The radiation from their broken fusion core was slowly cooking them from the inside. Thyra had seen this before during the war. First you get tired, then you can't think straight, then your organs start shutting down. They maybe had 6 hours. Left, probably less. The accident happened so fast. One moment they were studying a new type of crystal they'd found on the dead planet below. The next moment, a chunk of metal the size of a house came spinning out of nowhere and smashed right through their engine room. The impact destroyed their main computer, their long-range communicator, and worst of all, cracked their fusion reactor like an egg. Dr. Velak, their chief scientist, tried to stand up but collapsed back into his seat. "Commander," he wheezed. "The radiation levels are climbing. We need to evacuate to the escape pods." Thyra shook her head. "The pods were damaged in the crash. They won't make it past the atmosphere." She looked around at her crew, people she'd worked with for years, friends who trusted her to keep them safe. Now she was watching them die slowly, and there was nothing she could do about it. Their backup communicator was barely working. It could only send simple radio signals, the kind of basic messages that took forever to travel between stars. Thyra activated the emergency beacon and spoke into the crackling microphone. "This is Commander Thyra of the research vessel, Stellar Echo. We are stranded in the Kepler 442 system with critical damage and radiation exposure. 10 crew members need immediate medical evacuation. Please, anyone who receives this message, we are dying out here." She released the transmit button and listened to the static. Space was so big, so empty. Their message would bounce around the galaxy for months before reaching any Galactic Federation station. Even if someone heard it right away, they'd have to file reports, get approval from 3 different departments, and wait for an official rescue ship to be assigned. The Federation didn't do anything quickly. Thyra slumped in her captain's chair and watched her crew getting weaker. The young intern, Zara, was already unconscious. The navigation officer kept trying to work at his station, but his hands were shaking too much to press the buttons properly. The ship felt like a tomb, cold and quiet except for the distant humming of the failing life support system. She kept broadcasting the same message over and over, knowing it was hopeless. In 6 hours, maybe less, the Stellar Echo would become another ghost ship drifting through the void. Just another tragedy that the Federation would investigate months later and file away in their reports. Commander Thyra was getting ready to send her distress message for the 20th time when something impossible happened. The radio crackled to life with an incoming transmission. She stared at the communication panel in shock. Nobody should be able to respond this fast. It had only been 8 minutes since her first call. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything she'd ever heard. It was rough and deep, with strange sounds that made her universal translator work overtime. The computer kept making error noises as it tried to figure out what language this was. "Unknown vessel," the voice said, with long pauses as the translator struggled. "This is Captain Saminho, was of the Terran ship Iron Will. We have your distress call and are coming to help. Stay alive." Thyra's jaw dropped. She looked around at her dying crew, and they were all staring at the radio with the same confused expression. Dr. Velak managed to sit up straighter despite his radiation sickness. "Commander," he whispered. "Did he just say Terran? That's impossible. There's no such species in the Federation database." Thyra quickly pulled up the galactic registry on her damaged computer. She searched for Terran and Terra and anything that sounded similar. Nothing came up, according to every official record. In the galaxy, this species didn't exist. "Maybe it's a translation error," suggested the navigation officer, though his voice was getting weaker. "The computer is damaged. It might be mixing up the words." But before anyone could respond, their sensors detected something that made them all go silent. A ship was approaching their position fast, really fast. Thyra had been in the space service for 15 years, and she'd never seen anything move like this. The ship was traveling at speeds that should have been impossible without destroying itself. Attention. Stellar Echo. The voice came back, clearer now as the translator got better at understanding the language. This is Captain Minho. We'll reach you in 4 minutes. Prepare for emergency boarding procedures. 4 minutes? Thyra checked her instruments again. The approaching ship was still 3 light hours away according to her readings, but somehow it was getting closer by the second. Either her sensors were completely broken, or this Terran ship had technology that made Federation vessels look like antiques. "Who are you people?" she whispered into the microphone. "We're humans," came the reply, "and we don't leave people to die in space." The word humans didn't translate properly either. The computer kept switching between different interpretations. Warriors and survivors were the stubborn ones. None of it made sense. Dr. Velak tried to access the Federation's xenobiology database to look up human physiology, but the search came back empty. "Commander, this species isn't just unregistered. It's like they don't exist in any of our records. No first contact reports, no diplomatic files, no scientific studies, nothing." Thyra felt a chill that had nothing to do with the failing life support. A mysterious species with impossible technology was racing toward their helpless ship, and the Federation had no idea they existed. These humans could be hostile. They could be pirates using fake distress responses to lure in victims. But as she looked around at her dying crew, Thyra realized she didn't have a choice. Whether these humans were saviors or something worse, they were the only hope her people had left. When the human ship appeared on their screens, Commander Thyra couldn't believe what she was seeing. The iron will looked like someone had taken a hammer to a pile of scrap metal and somehow made it fly. Where Kelvarian ships were smooth and curved like works of art, this thing was all sharp edges and exposed machinery. Steam poured out of vents along its hull, and bright orange flames shot out from its engines. "That's not a spaceship," Dr. Velak whispered, his voice weak from radiation sickness. "That's a flying junkyard." The human vessel was massive, easily twice the size of the Stellar Echo, but it looked like it had been built in someone's backyard. Thick metal plates were welded over obvious damage, and Thyra could see cables and pipes running along the outside of the hull. It was the ugliest ship she'd ever seen, but somehow it had crossed impossible distances to reach them. Captain Minho's voice crackled through their speakers again. "We're boarding your ship now. Your crew needs immediate help." Thyra grabbed her microphone. "Wait, Captain Minho. We need to follow proper first contact procedures. There are protocols for—" She never got to finish her sentence. Bright blue cutting beams suddenly appeared on their hull, slicing through the metal like it was paper. The humans were burning through their airlock without waiting for permission. "They're cutting into our ship," shouted the navigation officer. "Commander, they're violating every law in the Federation Code." Thyra watched in horror as sparks flew from their main airlock. The cutting beams moved in perfect circles, and she realized these humans knew exactly what they were doing. They'd done this before. "Should we activate the defense grid?" asked Dr. Velak, though they all knew their weapons were offline. Before Thyra could answer, the airlock exploded inward with a loud bang. Smoke filled the corridor, and through the haze came the strangest sight she'd ever witnessed. The humans were walking through the toxic, radioactive air of her dying ship, wearing nothing but simple cloth masks over their faces. Not full environmental suits, not advanced breathing apparatus, just basic cloth masks like you'd use to keep dust out of your nose. The first human through the hole was a woman with short black hair and intense dark eyes. She was wearing some kind of military uniform covered in patches and modifications. Behind her came 3 more humans, all carrying medical equipment that looked like it had been built in a garage. "Where are your wounded?" the woman asked, her voice muffled by the mask. The translator was working better now, making her words clear and direct. "You can't be in here," Thyra said, backing away. "The radiation levels will kill you in minutes." The human woman looked at a small device in her hand and shrugged. "We've got maybe an hour before it gets dangerous. That's plenty of time." She turned to her team. "Jiho, start with the unconscious ones. Somin, check their reactor. See if we can stop the leak. Do-hyun, start setting up the portable life support. The humans spread out through the ship like they owned it, completely ignoring Thyra's protests about proper procedures. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking on her crew members and setting up strange-looking medical equipment. The woman who seemed to be in charge knelt down next to young Zara, who hadn't moved in over an hour. "This one's in bad shape," she called out. "But she's still breathing. We can save her." Thyra watched in amazement as the humans worked. They should have been dead already from the radiation exposure. But they acted like they were just dealing with a minor inconvenience. These people were either incredibly brave or completely insane. Maybe they were both. The moment the humans spread out through her ship, Commander Thyra realized she was watching something she'd never seen before. These people moved like a machine, each one knowing exactly what to do without being told. It was like watching a dance, except this dance was happening in a radioactive tomb while her crew was dying. Medical Officer Jiho dropped to his knees beside Dr. Velak, who was barely conscious. The human pulled out a metal case that looked like it had been kicked down a flight of stairs. Inside were dozens of small bottles filled with different colored liquids. None of them had proper medical labels, just numbers scrawled in black. "Marker, what are you doing?" Thyra asked, stepping closer. "Saving his life," Jiho replied without looking up. He filled a syringe with bright green liquid and jabbed it directly into Velak's neck. "This should slow down the organ damage," Thyra gasped. "You can't just inject unknown chemicals into him. You don't even know Kelvarian biology." Jiho looked up at her with tired eyes. "Lady, I've treated 17 different alien species with radiation sickness. The basics are all the same. Keep the blood moving, stop the cells from breaking down, and buy time for the body to heal itself." He moved to the next crew member. "Your friend here will feel better in about 10 minutes. And incredibly, Dr. Velak did start looking better. His grey skin began to show hints of its normal blue color, and his breathing became steadier. Whatever that green liquid was, it actually worked. Meanwhile, Engineer Somin was doing things to their reactor that made Thyra's stomach turn. She was ripping out safety cables and crossing wires that were never meant to touch each other. Sparks flew everywhere as she worked. "Stop!" Thyra shouted. "Those are critical safety systems. If you bypass them, the whole reactor could explode." Somin paused for a moment and looked at her. "Your reactor is already leaking radiation all over the place. These safety systems are what's keeping it from shutting down completely." She went back to her work. "Sometimes you have to break a few rules to keep people breathing." The human woman twisted 2 cables together, and suddenly the lights got brighter. The air recycling system hummed back to life, and Thyra could feel fresh oxygen flowing into the room for the first time in hours. "How did you know that would work?" Thyra asked in amazement. "Because I've fixed about 100 broken reactors," Somin replied, already moving to the next problem. "Kelvarian, Zephyrian, Altarian, they're all based on the same basic fusion principles. You just have to ignore what the manual says and focus on what actually needs to happen." The third human, Do-hyun, was setting up some kind of portable life support system. It looked like a collection of car parts welded together, but when he turned it on, the toxic air around them began to clear. The radiation detector on Thyra's belt stopped clicking quite so frantically. "Where did you learn to do all this?" she asked the team leader. The woman looked up from where she was helping Jiho treat another crew member. "You learn fast when people die if you mess up. We've been doing emergency rescues for 15 years. But the Federation has no record of your species." "The Federation doesn't know we exist," the woman said simply, "and we like it that way." Commander Thyra followed the humans down to the engine room, where the real damage was. The fusion core sat in the center, like a dying heart, with cracks running through its containment field and radiation pouring out like toxic blood. It was the kind of damage that would take a Federation repair crew 6 months to fix, assuming they could fix it at all. Mechanic Do-hyun took one look at the broken reactor and started laughing. Not the crazy laugh of someone losing their mind, but the satisfied chuckle of someone who'd seen this problem before. "What's so funny?" Thyra asked. "Our fusion core is completely destroyed." "Nah," Do-hyun said, pulling tools out of his bag. "It's just having a bad day. I can fix this." He walked back toward the airlock they'd cut through. "Give me 20 minutes to grab some parts from our ship." When he came back, he was carrying what looked like junk. Old metal plates, coils of wire, some kind of crystalline component that was clearly meant for a completely different type of engine, and what appeared to be part of a kitchen appliance. "How you're going to repair our fusion core with that?" Dr. Velak asked. He was feeling much better thanks to Jiho's injections, but he still looked confused. "This crystal here," Do-hyun said, holding up the strange component, "came from a Rigelian cargo hauler. Their fusion tech is completely different from yours, but the energy output is almost identical. If I can adapt the frequencies—" He started welding the alien crystal directly onto their Kelvarian fusion chamber. Thyra watched in horror. "That's impossible. Rigelian and Kelvarian technologies are completely incompatible. The molecular structure is entirely different." "Yeah, that's what the textbooks say," Do-hyun muttered, sparks flying from his welding torch. "But energy is energy. You just have to convince the atoms to play nice together." What happened next defied everything Thyra knew about engineering. Do-hyun somehow made the Rigelian crystal work with their Kelvarian fusion chamber by adding what looked like parts from a food processor. He wrapped the whole thing in copper wire he'd stripped from their own ship's walls and connected it using cables that were definitely not designed for this purpose. "This violates about 50 safety regulations," Thyra said, backing away from the jury-rigged reactor. "Probably more than that," Do-hyun agreed cheerfully. "But it's going to work." And impossibly, it did work. When he activated the modified fusion core, not only did it start producing clean energy again, but it was actually running more efficiently than it had before the accident. The radiation levels dropped to almost nothing, and their power systems came back online one by one. "How?" Thyra asked, staring at the impossible repair. "How did you know that would work?" Do-hyun packed up his tools. "I didn't. But sometimes the best fix is the one that shouldn't work according to the rules." He pointed at the humming reactor. "Your people spend months running computer simulations and checking safety protocols before you change a single bolt. We just try things until something works." Dr. Velak was running scans of the modified reactor, shaking his head in disbelief. "The energy output is 30% higher than our original specifications. This repair is actually better than what we had before." "Human engineering," said Soman, who was finishing up repairs to their life support system. "We don't have time to make things perfect, so we make them work instead." Thyra realized she was witnessing something that would change everything she thought she knew about technology and problem-solving. These humans took impossible situations and made them work through sheer creativity and determination. After the humans finished saving her crew and fixing her ship, Commander Thyra felt like she owed them everything. Her people were alive. Their reactor was running better than ever, and the Stellar Echo was actually in better condition than before the accident. But when Captain Minho finally came aboard to check on his team's work, Thyra noticed something troubling in his eyes. "Captain," she said, "we can't thank you enough for what you've done. Please let us escort you to the nearest Federation station. You'll be honored as heroes." Minho's expression darkened. He looked tired, older than his years, and when he spoke his voice carried a weight that made Thyra's heart sink. "We can't go to any Federation station," he said quietly. "We've used up most of our fuel getting here. The Iron Will doesn't have enough power left to make it back to human territory." Thyra felt confused. "But that's perfect. We can escort you to Federation space. Our government will be thrilled to meet a new species, especially one that saved 10 Federation citizens. You'll be treated like royalty." The human captain actually laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Commander, you don't understand. As far as your Federation is concerned, we don't exist. We have no diplomatic status, no recognition, no legal right to be in this part of the galaxy." "What do you mean?" Dr. Velak asked. He was standing now, completely recovered from his radiation poisoning thanks to the human medicine. "I mean, if we show up at a Federation station, we'll be arrested as illegal aliens," Captain Minho explained. "Our ship will be impounded, my crew will be locked up for questioning, and we'll disappear into your bureaucracy for years while they try to figure out what to do with us." The idea shocked Thyra. "But you saved our lives. Surely that counts for something." "Not to your government," Minho said with a bitter smile. "We've seen what happens when humans make contact with Federation authorities. 3 of our ships have been seized in the past 5 years. The crews are still being held in detention facilities while your politicians debate whether we have the right to exist. Somin, the engineer who had fixed their reactor, spoke up from where she was monitoring the repairs. Captain, we've got maybe enough fuel for 1 more long-distance jump. After that, we're stranded wherever we land. Thyra saw the impossible situation these humans were in. They had risked everything to save her crew, and now they were trapped. There has to be something we can do. Captain Minho was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with a difficult decision. Finally, he looked up at Thyra with an expression that was both hopeful and desperate. "There is one thing," he said slowly, "but it's dangerous for both of us." "Name it," Thyra said immediately. "We need coordinates to Kelvarian space, your home territory. Not Federation stations, but your actual homeworld and colonies." Minho's voice was steady, but Thyra could hear the uncertainty underneath. "We need to make contact with your people directly, outside of Federation control." Dr. Velak gasped. "Captain, that would be establishing first contact without Federation oversight. That's illegal under about 12 different treaties." "I know," Thyra said, looking at the humans who had saved all their lives. "But these people didn't follow Federation protocols when they rescued us either." Captain Minho nodded. "We're asking you to take a big risk. If your government finds out you gave us those coordinates, you could face charges for unauthorized first contact." Thyra thought about her crew, all alive because these strangers had broken every rule to save them. She thought about the impossible repairs they'd made and the medicine that had literally brought her people back from the edge of death. "What exactly are you asking for?" she said. As Captain Minho explained what the humans needed, Commander Thyra found herself asking more and more questions. The answers she got painted a picture that completely changed how she saw the galaxy. "How many of you are out there?" she asked, gesturing toward the viewport where the Iron Will hung in space like a mechanical beast. "Humans?" Minho scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Hard to say exactly. Maybe 50 million spread across about 200 colonies in the Outer Rim territories." Thyra's jaw dropped. 50 million? 200 colonies? That's impossible. The Federation monitors all colonization efforts. We would know if there was a civilization that large operating in our galaxy. "Your Federation only monitors the inner systems," said Somin, who was still tinkering with their reactor controls. "Out where we live, there's no Federation presence at all. Too dangerous, too far from supply lines, too expensive to maintain." Dr. Velak pulled up a star chart on his tablet. "Show me where you're talking about." Captain Minho pointed to the edge of the displayed map, where the stars became sparse and the danger ratings turned red. "Beyond the Kepler belt, past the dead zones in systems your people marked as uninhabitable. That's where we built our homes. But those systems are classified as too hostile for colonization," Thyra protested. "Radiation storms, unstable stars, pirate activity, toxic atmospheres." "Yeah, they're not exactly vacation spots," Minho agreed with a grin. "But they're home. We've been out there for almost 80 years, ever since the first human colony. Ships left Earth." The timeline confused Thyra even more. "Earth? Where's Earth? That's not in any of our star charts. It's way outside Federation territory," Jiho explained, while packing up his medical supplies. "Our homeworld is in a system you probably call Sector 7 Alpha. We've been spacefaring for about a century, but we learned early on to stay away from the established galactic powers." "Why?" Thyra asked. Captain Minho's expression grew serious. "Because the first time we made contact with the Federation patrol, they tried to arrest us for unauthorized space travel. Apparently, we were supposed to apply for permission to leave our own planet." Somin laughed bitterly. "They wanted us to fill out forms in triplicate just to fly between our own colonies. So we decided to avoid Federation space entirely and build our civilization somewhere else." The scope of what they were telling her was staggering. Thyra tried to wrap her mind around it. "You're saying there's an entire human civilization out there that's been completely independent for decades?" "Independent and thriving," Minho confirmed. "We've got mining operations, manufacturing plants, agricultural worlds, research stations. The Iron Will here was built at the Titan Yards, one of our biggest shipbuilding facilities." Thyra looked at the ugly patchwork ship through the viewport. That was built at a major shipyard. Don't let the looks fool you, Doyun said proudly. This ship has been through 3 pirate attacks, 2 radiation storms, and a close encounter with a black hole. She's still flying because we build things. To last, not to look pretty. Pirates? Dr. Velak asked nervously. Oh yeah, the Outer Rim is crawling with them, Jiho said casually. Mostly species that got kicked out of Federation space for various crimes. They figured they could prey on the primitive humans who didn't have government protection. What happened to them? Thyra asked. Though she was starting to guess the answer, Captain Minho smiled grimly. Let's just say piracy isn't as profitable as it used to be in human space. We don't have fancy Federation peacekeepers, so we learned to handle our own problems. Thyra realized she was looking at something unprecedented, a civilization that had grown up completely outside the galactic order, developing its own technology and culture through pure necessity. These humans had faced every challenge the galaxy could throw at them, and not just survived, but built something remarkable. Your ship, she said slowly. It's faster than anything in the Federation fleet, isn't it? Has to be, Minho replied. When pirates attack, you can't file a complaint with the authorities. You either outrun them, outfight them, or you die. Over. The next few hours, something amazing happened aboard the Stellar Echo. What started as an emergency rescue turned into the most interesting collaboration Commander Thyra had ever experienced. The humans and Kelvarians began working together, and both sides learned things that surprised them. Dr. Velak was fascinated by the human medical equipment. This scanner of yours, he said to Jiho, it's reading biological data I didn't think was possible to detect. Jiho grinned and handed him the device. Built it myself from parts of 3 different alien medical systems. Took me 2 years to figure out how to make them work together. You built this yourself? Velak examined the scanner more closely. This technology is more advanced than anything in our medical facilities. How did you learn to combine incompatible systems? Trial and error mostly, Jiho replied. When you're treating patients on a ship that's under attack by pirates, you don't have time to wait for proper equipment to arrive. You use whatever works. Meanwhile, Somin was having her own revelation as she watched Kelvarian biotechnology in action. Their ship's hull wasn't just metal. It was partially alive, able to repair small damage by itself and adapt to changing conditions. This is incredible, she said, running her hands along the wall. Your ship can literally heal itself. Why doesn't everyone use this technology? It takes decades to grow a ship hull properly, Dr. Velak explained. The biological components have to be carefully cultivated in special facilities. It's very expensive and time-consuming. Somin nodded thoughtfully. But once it's done, you'd never need to worry about microfractures or metal fatigue. The ship gets stronger over time instead of wearing out. She looked at Captain Minho. We should definitely look into this for our next ship designs. Commander Thyra found herself watching the exchange with growing amazement. Her people were some of the most advanced scientists in the Federation, but they were learning as much from these humans as they were teaching them. Your approach to problem-solving is completely different from ours, she told Captain Minho as they watched their crews work together. How so? He asked. When we face a technical problem, we research it for months, run computer simulations, consult with experts, and then implement a carefully planned solution, Thyra explained. You just try things until something works. Minho laughed. We don't have the luxury of months of research. When your life support is failing and pirates are shooting at you, you fix the problem with whatever you have on hand, or you die. Thyra watched Do-hyun teaching one of her engineers how to jury-rig a backup power system, using spare parts and creative thinking. The Kelvarian engineer looked both terrified and excited as he learned to work without following a manual. We've grown soft, Thyra realized out loud. The Federation provides so much protection and support that we've stopped learning how to solve problems on our own. Not soft, Minho corrected gently. Specialized. Your people are incredibly smart, and your technology is amazing. But you've been able to focus on perfection because you have a stable society backing you up. While you've had to focus on survival, Thyra said. Exactly. And survival teaches you things that no classroom can. Dr. Velak approached them, holding up a small device that seemed to be part human scanner and part Kelvarian biotech. "Commander, look at this. We've created a hybrid medical scanner that can diagnose both mechanical and biological problems simultaneously." Thyra stared at the device. "You created that in just a few hours?" "Jiho had the idea. I had the biological components and we just made it work," Velak said with excitement in his voice. "It's the most fun I've had with research in years." Captain Minho looked around at the two crews working together, sharing knowledge and creating new solutions. "You know what this is? This is what happens when people from different backgrounds work together, without bureaucrats telling them what they can and can't do." Thyra nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand that these humans represented something her civilized. Galaxy had lost the willingness to take risks, to try new things, and to push boundaries without asking permission first. "Your people," she said to Minho, "you're not just survivors, you're explorers in the truest sense." "And your people," he replied, "are teachers who could help us understand the galaxy in ways we never imagined." 3 days later, the two ships reached the edge of Federation space. Commander Thera stood on the bridge of the Stellar Echo, watching the Iron Will prepare for its final jump to human territory. The coordinates she had given Captain Minho would take them to the Kelvarian homeworld, where they could establish proper diplomatic contact away from Federation bureaucracy. "Commander," Dr. Velak said quietly, "are you sure about this? If Federation Command finds out we gave them those coordinates without authorization, we could face court-martial," Thyra finished. "I know." She looked at the human ship one more time. "But those people saved our lives when no one else could reach us. They didn't ask for permission or wait for proper authorization. They just acted." The communication system crackled to life with Captain Minho's voice. "Commander Thyra, we're ready to jump. Thank you for everything. The coordinates, the collaboration, and most importantly, for trusting us. Thank you for showing us what real courage looks like," Thera replied. "Safe travels, Captain." "One more thing," Minho added. "If your government gives you trouble about helping us, remember what we told you about human engineering. Sometimes the best solution is the one that shouldn't work according to the rules." Thyra smiled. "I'll remember." The Iron Will engaged its hyperdrive with a flash of blue light, and suddenly the humans were gone, racing toward a meeting that would change galactic history. Thyra stared at the empty space where they had been, knowing she would probably never see them again. But she had work to do. "Dr. Velak, please prepare a complete report on everything that happened here. Technical specifications of their repairs, medical data from their treatments, everything." "Commander, are you planning to—" "I'm going to tell Federation Command." "Exactly what happened," Thyra said firmly. "All of it." Over the next 2 hours, Thyra composed the most important message of her career. She documented the rescue, the impossible technology, the hidden civilization of 50 million humans spread across 200 colonies. She described their advanced ships, their innovative medicine, their ability to solve problems that stumped Federation experts. Most importantly, she formally requested that the Galactic Federation recognize humanity as a legitimate spacefaring civilization and begin immediate diplomatic contact. "Are you really going to send that?" asked her navigation officer as he read over the report. "I am," Thyra said, her finger hovering over the transmit button. "The galaxy is about to learn that there's an entire civilization out there that I knew nothing about. A civilization that might be more advanced than we are in some ways." She pressed the button, and the message shot across space toward Federation headquarters. Within hours, the response came back. Federation Command was demanding immediate debriefing, sending investigation teams, and scrambling to understand how they had missed an entire spacefaring species for decades. But Thyra wasn't worried about the bureaucratic chaos she had just unleashed. She was thinking about what Captain Minho had said about human engineering. Sometimes the best solution is the one that breaks all the rules. The Federation had rules for everything: first contact protocols, diplomatic procedures, colonization, permits. But while they were following their rules, humanity had quietly built something remarkable in the dangerous frontier beyond their borders. As news of the discovery spread through Federation space, Thyra realized that everything was about to change. The galaxy's established civilizations would have to confront the fact that there were other ways to explore space, other approaches to technology, other philosophies about survival among the stars. Humanity had broken through the silence that had hidden them for generations, and now the real adventure could begin.